Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be learning about the cranial nerves. And the information that you need to know about the cranial nerves is the number, the name of the nerve, the type of information it carries, whether sensory, motor, or both, and the function. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to start with the numbers. Again, there are 12 cranial nerves and they are denoted by a Roman numeral. So it is not enough to just know the number. You need to know how to write it in Roman numeral format. Next, you need to know the names of the cranial nerves. I like to use mnemonics for this because it helps me remember the name and the order. So if you want to use my mnemonic, you are welcome to do so. It is here. Obviously, once one takes the anatomy final, very good vodka alleviates heartache. And if you take the first letter in red and you plug them into our chart here, you can help the mnemonic to remember that first letter. So obviously, once one takes the anatomy final, very good vodka alleviates heartache. You can then use these first letters to help remind you of what the actual names of all the nerves are, shown here. Olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens, facial, vestibulocochlear, glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, and hypoglossal. Now, in terms of type of information, you need to know either sensory, motor, or both. So some of the nerves carry only sensory information, meaning afferent information. Some of the nerves carry only motor information out, efferent information, and some of them are carrying both sensory and motor. The mnemonic that I use to try and remember this is: some say marry money, but my brother says big brains matter more. So S denotes sensory, M denotes motor, and B denotes both sensory and motor. So if we put this into the chart, first letters, I'll start with: some say marry money, but my brother says big brains matter more. Those correspond to. As for the function, I'm going to switch over to my phone and draw out a little picture for you. Go ahead and get out a pen and get ready to draw. To remember the functions of each of the cranial nerves, I like to draw a little face. It's helpful to remember that all of the cranial nerves are either helping carry in sensory information or sending out motor information, or sometimes both sensory and motor information, to areas of the head, face, and neck. So cranial nerve number 1 is the olfactory nerve. This is a sensory nerve, and we're going to draw it right in the middle of our face because that's where your nose would be. So that's the olfactory nerve, and it picks up your sense of smell. We're going to draw in two little eyes here. Cranial nerve number 2 is your optic nerve. This is also a sensory nerve, and it helps us with our sense of sight. Cranial nerve number 3 is the oculomotor nerve. This is a motor nerve and helps to run the extrinsic eye muscles that move the eyes, as well as raises the eyelid. Cranial nerve number 4 is the trochlear nerve. This is also a motor nerve and helps us with our superior eye muscles. When you look up at something, you are using cranial nerve number 4 to send that motor information to your superior rectus muscles. Cranial nerve number 5 is the trigeminal nerve. This is a mixed nerve carrying both sensory information as well as motor information. And this is going to help us detect senses from the face as well as help us with our chewing muscles. Cranial nerve number 6 is the abducens. This one is also a motor nerve. This helps us move our eyes laterally. So the lateral rectus muscle receives information from the abducens nerve. Cranial nerve number 7 is a mixed nerve again and helps us with our facial expression, so moving the muscles that help us have expression, as well as a sensory nerve in that it receives information about taste from the tongue. So that is the facial nerve number 7. Cranial nerve number 8 is a sensory nerve. It is bringing in information about hearing as well as balance and equilibrium from the ears. That is the vestibulocochlear nerve number 8. Cranial nerve number 9 is the glossopharyngeal. I'm going to draw a little tongue kind of sticking out here. Cranial nerve number 9 goes on the tongue. This is both a sensory and a motor neuron as well that helps us with not only swallowing food, but tasting our food. Cranial nerve number 10, I'm going to put down here, down on the body, and I'm going to put a little heart next to it, just to remind you that this nerve, the vagus nerve, helps us with not only taste and swallowing, but also our visceral motor impulses that help us regulate our heart rate and blood pressure. Cranial nerve number 11 goes down here on the shoulders. This is the accessory nerve, and it is a motor nerve, and it helps us with our head and shoulder skeletal muscle movements. Our last cranial nerve is cranial nerve number 12. This is called the hypoglossal nerve, and it is a motor nerve that helps us with speaking, moving our tongue, as well as swallowing. So that is a motor nerve. Jumping back to our chart, you can see that I have added the functions for each of the cranial nerves. So everything that you need to know is now in this chart. The number, the name, the type of information carried, as well as the function. That's it for today. See you in class.